Okay, I think we're just missing Sergio and Diego. I'm so sorry. I know this was such a mess. Okay, let's give it one more minute. See if they join. Okay, guys. Well, let's continue. So if you have had a chance to read, and I think we can discuss. So as you know, you have 4 paragraphs here. You had the author's opinion and 3 reasons, right? Okay, just in time. Now, can anyone tell me what the main claim was? So what was the author's opinion in this article? That first thing that we had in the introduction, what was it? Yes, Luciana?
It was about how automatic cars, self-drive cars, will be good for the environment.
Okay, exactly. It was how these automatic cars are going to be good for the environment, though. Is it the main idea of the environment?
No. Basically, the main idea is that self-driving cars are going to be a positive impact, and then are the reasons.
Okay, exactly. You're totally right. It will have a positive impact. Okay, hang on a second. Sergio says he's trying, but he can't join. Okay, so yes, you're totally right. The main idea is that these cars will have a positive impact. So in general, the reading is about these autonomous or self-driving cars. And according to the author, they will have a positive impact. Good. So that is his opinion. So what about the reasons? What reasons does the author give to support that idea? Why will they have such a positive impact? What's the first reason that we have in the first body paragraph? What do they talk about in the first one? Yes, Luciana?
They talk about the impact, the crashes, that it is one of the main the main causes of death and that stuff in the United States. And since self-driving cars, it will reduce the crash incident.
Okay, so yes, it will reduce car accidents. And what does that mean? There's one keyword here, I would say.
Not capable of making mistakes. The self-driving car does not make mistakes.
Yeah, they won't make mistakes, and that means that they are safer, right?
Exactly.
Okay, good. So yes, you explain it. So the author says that the first reason why they will have a positive impact is because they are safer, and that is because they don't or they won't cause as many accidents as usual cars do. Okay, that's great. So safety, accidents, maybe we can, mistakes, accidents, where is it? Okay, crashes. What about the second reason? Why else are these cars a good idea? Why else? What's the second reason we have in the second body paragraph?
It's because they are good for the environment.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that sums it up. The second reason is about the environment. Allegedly, they are going to be good for the environment. And then we have an explanation on how they work and why, or how the system is going to be more efficient or drives more efficiently, right? But basically, yes, according to the author, they will be better for the environment, or they are good for the environment. So what about the third reason then? What is the third reason why these cars are optimal?
Human occupants can focus on other things.
Okay, exactly, yes. So human occupants can focus on other things. So that means that it's about time, right? If we had to find a keyword, maybe I would say time, yes. So these cars gives passengers time, and it gives them the chance to do or focus on other activities instead of driving. That's great. Okay, so now finally we have Sergio. Okay. So by the way, we were just analyzing what we had in the reading. We didn't do anything yet. We were saying, Sergio, that we were identifying those four elements, right? We said that the author's position, the author's opinion, which was in the introduction, is that these autonomous cars will have a positive impact in our driving experience, right? That is his position, his opinion. And we identify what those three reasons are. So the first one was that they are going to be safer. The second one, that they're going to be good for the environment. And finally, that they will give us time to focus on other activities. Okay, so we just talked about it. So any questions as for about this reading, this article, or what you have to do when you're reading? Any questions? Okay, guys. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna listen to the lecture. Okay, remember that the lecture is gonna be about the same thing, but the professor's opinion will be the opposite of what the reading's opinion is, right? So what do you think the professor will say about these cars?
The
They are,
opposite.
I don't know, unsafe, I don't know. But
Okay. Okay, that's great. That makes sense. So yeah, the professor's probably going to be against the use of these cars. And you will notice that even if you will have a lot of new things, the professor will also focus on those three specific points. The first one is going to be about safety. I don't know what the professor will say, but it's going to be about safety. The second one is definitely going to be about the environment. And the third one will be about time. So it's kind of like a response that the professor is going to provide. So we're going to listen to this. Please take some notes. Make sure that you catch those points. You do have to take notes from the listening because you only get to listen once. Okay, so take some notes and then we'll talk about it.
Now listen to part of a lecture on the same topic you just read about. A lot of people are very excited about driverless cars, but most of the media attention and praise ignores the problems of driverless cars. The author seems to believe that autonomous cars will cure all of our driving troubles, when nothing could be further from the truth. Take the idea that driverless cars will be safer. Remember, all computer software is designed by humans, so any type of automatic guidance system within driverless cars will be prone to error. For example, the driverless car mentioned by the author, the one that drove over 700,000 miles without an accident, actually hit another car just last month. It was all over the news because it makes everyone doubt just how safe driverless cars actually are. And what about the idea that driverless cars will reduce pollution? Well, some studies suggest that more people will begin to drive once driverless cars become available. Since people will no longer need a driver's license to get behind the wheel, age restrictions for both young and old will no longer matter. More people will be on the road, and it will increase the amount of cars. Pollution levels may actually increase with driverless cars, even if they drive in a more fuel-efficient manner. As for the extra time the driverless cars are supposed to give us, well, that may be such a benefit after all. You see, most people nowadays find driving relaxing. They enjoy driving their car while listening to music or talk radio. It's a welcome distraction from the usual routine. Once people start to use driverless cars, it becomes another space to do work or watch videos, which is how most people already spend most of their day. I'm afraid that this extra time in driverless cars will just be another way to work or waste time. Now, answer the question. Summarize the points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they cast doubt on the specific points made in the reading passage. You have 20 minutes to write.
Okay, guys. So that right there was the lecture. So before we get into the question and the template and your response, maybe we can summarize it a bit. If you can take a look at your notes and tell me. First thing, we know what the professor's opinion was, right? It's always going to be the opposite of the author's opinion. So we know that the professor is against these driverless cars, and I think he says that we're ignoring the problems, right? That they have even more shortcomings or problems than the benefits that they mention. Okay. But what about the reasons? That's what I'm interested in. What is the first reason that the professor gives? Why are these cars not a good idea after all?
The first reason that the professor explains is that even though in the reading it states that it is safer, it makes no mistakes, that most crashes were made by human error. In the case of driverless cars, a person may not be driving, but a person like manages the software that manages the car. So a software is also prone to human error. And he gives example of the same example about the car that it crashed recently.
Okay, that's great. That's great, Luciana. That's really complete. So yes, you're totally right. So these cars are actually prone to error too, because even if they are not being driven by a human, they are designed by humans. So yes, you're right. And he also mentions the same example that the authors mentioned, and he explains that it actually crashed. So that is great. And one thing that I really liked about the way that you explain it is that contrast that you made. You said, even though the reading says that that they are not prone to error because they are not being driven by a human that can make a mistake. So the professor explains that this is what actually happens. So I really like that contrast that you made. And that's actually something that we're going to try to do in the essay. Okay, we're going to try to contrast the information as much as we can. And you can do it using those words, like even though, or even if, or although. So I'm going to talk about that later. But that was a great explanation. Thanks.
Thanks.
So what about the second idea? What does the professor think of the environment? Are they actually good for the environment, these cars? Are they? Sergio, what do you remember for the second idea? What does the professor think of how good these cars are for the environment?
Me?
Yeah. Okay, yes, you too, Marco, you can go.
Okay. He talked about pollution,
Okay.
and he says that more people will start to drive and more cars will be on the road, and that will affect the environment and won't resolve the pollution problem.
Okay, that's great. Well explained too. So yes, you're right. So even if they drive more efficiently, according to the professor, if you're not gonna have like restrictions to drive these cars, then that means that more people are gonna be out there driving these autonomous cars. And more people, more cars means more pollution levels. That's great. So what about the third reason? What about the time that these cars are going to give us? Isn't that a positive thing? Diego, what do you think?
Actually, not because people use this time to relax, not even watch videos or other things.
Okay. Yeah. Go on. Okay, that's okay. So yes, you're right. The professor mentions that people actually like to drive, right? They use the time to relax. Anything else you guys want to add to this outline? Anything that you have in your notes? Anything you consider important? Okay. So before we go, let's try to at least get the introduction done, if we can take a couple more minutes. So in your response, what you're gonna do, even though it looks like it's a lot and you have to memorize many words, it's actually quite simple. You're gonna realize, I would say that the integrated writing is the easiest one. In the independent, you have a lot more flexibility, which is good if you're looking for a higher score, but the integrated one is right to the point. So there's nothing to even think about here. Everything you're gonna have to do in your essay is summarize what you've read and what you've heard in the lecture, trying to make sure that you contrast the information. I don't know if you pay attention to the question, but that's what it said, right? The question says, summarize the points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they cast out or how they contrast the points made in the reading. So you just need to make sure that you emphasize that contrast and you'll be okay. Now, what we're gonna do in order to do that, there are actually two different structures that are commonly used. This is one of them, and I would say this is the best one. The other structure consists in a 2-paragraph essay, and it's not that understandable, I would say. This is, I would think, the easiest one, the safest one as well. So this is what we're gonna do. So we're just gonna contrast the information, okay? We're gonna have 4 paragraphs as well. We don't need a conclusion, but in case you have extra time, we're gonna think of something to say in the conclusion as well as an extra thing. But generally, we're gonna have 4 paragraphs. We're gonna have 1 introduction and 3 body paragraphs. So if you think about it, it's the same structure that we had in the reading. We're gonna repeat the same structure. So let's see what we're gonna do. In the introduction, very briefly, maybe we can continue next class, so don't worry. But in the introduction, what we're gonna have is first, we're gonna have a general description of what the topic is. So we're gonna mention what the topic is, explain a little bit about the topic. Then we're gonna state the reading's claim, so the author's opinion, we could say. And finally, we're gonna contrast it with the lecture's claim, or the professor's opinion. Okay, and we're gonna have some transitional words as well. But we're gonna leave that today. Okay, we're gonna have 4 sentences, and that's what we're gonna do. So I think maybe we can leave this for next class. We have 1 more class to work on this, so it's enough. And yeah, we can continue writing, or we can start writing the essay next class. But do you have any questions so far? Is there anything that wasn't clear? I'm really sorry for what happened. Maybe next class we can stay a bit longer. Although I don't think it's gonna be necessary, because as I'm saying, we have some time to work on this. But any questions about what we've seen today, the structure, the reading or the listening part? Is it okay, you guys?
Here.
Okay. So thank you so much. I'm gonna send the daily survey. Let me see. Okay. And I'll be seeing you next class. Okay, guys, so thank you so much. I'll see you next class and we'll continue working on this section.
See you next class.
See you next
Bye.
class. Thanks, Andrea.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.